This conference will now be recorded.
So yesterday we were discussing about web services, right? Okay, so web service is an interface between a requester as well as a provider. So if our PRP's application is acting like a service provider, we have to create those type of rules like service soap or service rest or service MQ. So those kind of rules are to be created if it is acting like a service provider. And apart from the service rules, we have to create XML stream file as well as the XML parse file also. Okay, and in order to interact the data with this database, once we get the request from the requester, the data has to be converted from XML into its native language. For that, we will be creating one XML parse file. Once we get the request, we get how to interact with the database. So interaction with the database might be with the activity. So we have to create one activity for here, and this data has to be data from the database will be posting back to the particular provider service, and this thing has to be converted back into XML using stream file. So for that, we'll be having one stream file created, and it will be sending back the response. Okay, so these are all the things that are to be created whenever we are acting like a service provider. Similarly, if our PRPC application is acting like an requester, so in that case what we have to do, we have to create one XML file and one parse file as well. So XML file meaning, I mean the stream file meaning, whatever the data we are trying to send it as a request has to be converted from its native language into its XML. Okay, so for that we have to create one XML stream file, and we have to get the response from service provider in the XML format, right? So that has to be captured. So in order to get it captured, we have to have one XML parse file. So then only we can able to consume our data. And in order to go for this process, we have to create some connect rules. Okay. So these are for the connect rules, and this will be for the service rules. And the same stream file will be, same XML file will be considered as a stream in this prospect too, and it will be considered as a parse in this prospect, and it will be in the vice versa case here. So let me open any of the instance of a service soap. So if we're discussing about service soap, let me open any of the instance and we'll see what it is including here. So service soap is an instance. All the services are instances of integration services. So if we just open this, we can able to have the instances of a service. So if I just check here, so these are all the instances of service soap, right? As I told you, if our application is acting like a service provider, we have to create one service soap rule or service rest rule. Okay, so if I just open any of the instance, what we can able to see, we can able to have one activity being called, we can able to see something like a page name, and we are seeing something like in request response tab. So these are all the things. So if our application is acting like a service, so we have to create this rule and we have to mention all this as well. So we have to create one activity and we have to give all this. So if I just open the instance, we can able to see there is something called XML parse. In this request tab, we're having something like an XML parse rule, and in the response we're seeing something like a stream rule. Okay, and in the false tab we're not seeing anything. So the thing what PRPC will be doing whenever we are having this requested, so whenever the requester is requesting for any of the data, okay, so service soap rule will be triggered. So how the service soap rule will be triggered? As I told you, as a service provider, we have to provide few necessary details. So what are those details? We have to provide endpoint URL, we have to provide model request, model response, and password is just an optional. If they are having it authenticated, we have to provide the password, and we have to provide the method name. Okay, so these are all the things that are to be provided by a service provider to the requester. So what requester will be doing? Requester will be integrating. Requester will be creating few rules from his end. He will be creating one request rule and as well as the response rule that has to be captured. And for that, he will be having one connect soap rule to be triggered. So as soon as he click on submit button, we can able to have one connect soap triggered. So using this connect soap, we have to he has to connect with our service soap using endpoint URL. Okay, so endpoint URL is to be given, and using this we can able to interact with the service soap. So that is what requester has to do. Okay, so usually the real-time examples will be, if I just want to search for member policy details. Okay, So, or the insurance details, any kind of thing. So insurance details might be having in the separate database. So if the user is entering his policy number there and clicking on submit button, I want to get all the necessary details from the third party application. In that case, requester, what he has to do is he has to run one connect soap rule. Connect soap is a rule which can be called from data pages, or it can be called from activity also. So from activity, there will be one method called connect soap. Okay, so from the connect soap, using the activity, on clicking on that particular button, he can able to call one activity, and within this activity he can able to have one method called connect soap or connect rest, anything. Okay, and within this particular method he has to give the endpoint URL, so that will be hitting this particular soap. So whenever we are getting any request for this particular soap, this soap rule will be triggered. So the soap rule, what it has to do, initially what it will be doing, whenever it is getting triggered, it will be creating one new page on the clipboard. So now consider we are the service providers. So our PRPS application is a service provider. Whenever we are getting any request as an PAN card number or anything, so this particular service soap rule will be triggered. So in this process, there will be some step-by-step procedure. So whenever the service soap rule is getting triggered, it will be first creating one new page on the clipboard. Okay. So my service page is the primary page for the integration rule, that is soap rule here. And what are all the rules that are being called within this primary page, within the service soap rule will be having primary page as my service page. Okay, as like pure page is the primary page for flow and all the corresponding related rules which are being called within that, my service page is the primary page for integrations. So whatever the activity we are saying and whatever the request rule or the response rule we are saying, everything should be having primary page as my service page only. If you want to change this also, you can able to change, no issues. By default, it will be having service primary page as my service page. Whenever the service soap rule is getting executed, it will be creating one new page on the clipboard, that is like my service page. After this page has been created, it should be accepting the request from the requester. So requester might be sending one PAN card number or the SSN number. So that has to be converted back into my native language. Okay, so he'll be just sending one XML file having the PAN card request. So the PAN card request number has to be converted into my native language. For that, it will be having one parse rule triggered. Okay, so in the request tab, we can able to see something like a parse rule. Whatever the request we are getting it from the requester, for sure it will be parse rule only, right? So this particular XML will be considered as a parse rule in this case. In this prospective, this will be considered as a parse rule, and the same thing will be considered as a string in this case. Okay, so for the service soap, the request will be parse. So this parse rule will be executed and it will be converting all the XML file into its native language and putting all the requests in the clipboard under this page. So initially service tab will be executed, it will be creating one new page on the clipboard. Then after it will be immediately going to the request tab. In the request tab, it will be executing this parse rule. Okay, so parse rule has to executed and it has to convert all the XML data into its readable format, that is its native language. So it will be having PAN card number as 123, what user is sending. So that number has to be stored into this particular page as my service page dot PAN card number is equal to 123, something like this as per the design. So this particular request has to be stored onto this clipboard page. Okay, so meaning first service tab will be executed, page will be created, then after it will be coming to the request tab, it will be having this parse rule to be triggered and it will be converting data to readable format, and then after it will be again going back to the service tab. So within the service tab, what it has to do, it has to run one activity. So as soon as we get the request ready, we have to interact with our database. Here we can able to see as soon as we get the response ready as 123, we have to interact with our database. So that is the thing we are calling one activity. So this activity will be called as soon as we get this XML request, XML parcel triggered. After that is after that is completed, it will be having the necessary request information on the clipboard, and based on this activity will be triggered. And within this activity, we can able to write our own logic. Like we can able to go for obj open with this particular instance, and we can able to get the multiple instances, right? So we'll be getting everything stored. So on the same clipboard page, we'll be having request, and after this is getting executed, we'll be having response also. Once we get the response, so once we get back the response, it should not be directly sent as it is. It should be again converted here. So again, XML streaming has to be done. So that is the reason after the service tab, it will be jumping back to response tab. It will be jumping to response tab. And in this response tab, whatever the response we got from the particular activity will be converted using one stream file. So there will be one XML stream to be created separately, and in that we will be having all the necessary data converted into XML, and this will be sent as a response to the requester. So requester should be in a position to consume this XML data by creating one parse rule from his end. Okay, so XML parse has to be created, and it has to be consumed by this stream rule, and it has to consume this stream rule, and it has to be used there. So in all this whole process, what we have to understand here is, first service tab will be executed. It will be creating one new page on the clipboard. Then after, it will be going to the request tab. In the request tab, it will be having one parse rule triggered. Okay, so parse rule has to be created separately, and it will be having triggered, and it will be putting all the necessary information on the clipboard. Then after, it has to run the activity. So within this activity, we will be getting all the response created onto the page again. So this response details are to be sent from the response tab, meaning the response has to be streamed and it has to be sent it back. Okay, so in all this whole process, there will be something called faults also. If at all user is not sending us the proper data, or if our service is down, or if our database is down, any kind of issues we may be getting. Okay, if we are not getting the correct response, we should not be sending the error message as it is what we are getting. Okay, if the activity is being executed, and if you're not getting if you're just passing some bad input like PAN card number as invalid, so within this activity what we'll be getting, we'll be getting obj open as fail. So we'll be getting some set of error messages. Those error messages I should not be sending as it is to the requester, right? So I should be handling that situation, and I should be making like service is down, or PAN card number is invalid. So this kind of error handling should be done. So that is the reason what PRPC will be doing is, PRPC will be going to the false tab also. So within this false tab, it will be just checking for the conditions what we are applying. So if I just write one condition and saying like, I mean, if the obj open is failing or if the service is down, so whenever it is coming to this false tab, if any of the when condition is true, then the response will be sent back to the requester from this false tab, not from the response tab. Okay, so to be summarized, so first, whenever the SOAP rule is getting triggered, service tab will be executed. It will be creating one new page. Then after, it will be going to the parse rule. So it will be putting this particular request onto this page. Then after, activity will be executed. Activity will be running the processing the request, and will be getting back the response. And this response will not be directly sending it from service tab or the response tab also. Okay, so this service tab, after we get the activity run executed, it will be going to the false tab first. So execution wise, it will be going to the false tab. Within this false tab, if any of the condition is meeting, then we will be sending back the response to the requester from here. Okay, so if anything we are creating, it will be sending back the response from this tab. Else, if no conditions are meeting, it will be going back to the response tab, and from here the data will be converted into streaming, and it will be sent back to the requester. Okay, so this is all the thing what service soap will be doing, service rules will be doing. Clear, right? So if at all, if I want to create any of the new service file, new service soap or rest, here we will be giving the name, and here it will be asking something like a package name. Okay, so meaning we have to create one package, or we have to use the existing package name whenever we are using the service rules. So this is important. So what is service package and why it is important, and what are all the things we'll be having the service package that has to be learned. So as I told you, whatever the data that has to be sent to the requester should be put it in one file, and that file location will be shared. Okay, and this file location, the file location will be called as an WSDL file. Okay, that is web service descriptive language. So this is only for SOAP. Okay, what are the file location we are calling it for the SOAP is called as a WSDL, and for the rest or anything we should be calling the file location as HTTPS link. So this should be considered as a WS file, and this is considered as an HTTPS for the rest or anything. So the purpose of the service package rule here is it will be generating the WSDL file. So that is very important responsibility of service package. So what are the things we have to provide to the requester? Those are to be kept in one file, and that file has to be having one location. Okay, that location will be created by service package rule. Okay, so service package rule responsibility is to create the file location. So that is like in WSDL file. So if I just open any of the packages, so package service package will be under integration resources category. There will be something called service package. So open anything. Okay, so this will be the service package rule looking like. So I have to create one service package rule separately, and I have to link this to my service soap rule, this one. So here I have to link it. If I'm trying to create the new one, I have to link it here, or I can able to use the existing one as well. Okay, so this is one of the existing service package rule. So in the service package rule, what we can able to see, as I told you, we can able to have WSDL file location here. Okay, and this particular service package rule is common for any of the protocols. It might be having service soap or service rest or anything. If I'm trying to create one service soap rule, we have to have one package linked. If you want to create one service rest, one package has to be linked. So this one package can be linked for any of the, for n number of services. I can able to have 10 soap service and 10 rest service. For all these 20 services, we can able to go with one package rule also. Okay. So the purpose of this package rule is to have one file location. So if I just have this particular thing integrated for 10 different soaps, we'll be having 10 different file locations created within this rule. So let me select something like soap. If I select soap, so this is the particular service that has been using this package, and it will be having something called as a file location. So this is technically called as an WSDL file in case of soap. So that is what we can able to see at the end also. Okay, so this WSDL file has to be shared to the requester. So based on this WSDL file only, he can able to get endpoint URL, model request, all these details he can able to get it. Okay, so service package rule is very important, and this particular WSDL file has to be shared. So if I just click here, we can able to see the necessary information. So this is considered as an endpoint URL. So as I told you, endpoint URL will be there, and we can able to see something like an request. So PAN card is the request here. So this is the model request, what service is accepting, and this will be the model response. Okay, and we can able to have the method name also. So this particular WSDL file will be having all the things. So if this is given to the requester can able to consume all the necessary information based on this one. Clear, right? So the main purpose of this service package rule is to generate the file location. That is one thing, and second thing is it will be identifying the access level as well. So as I told you, this particular file location, this particular service package can be used for the multiple services. And if one service is to be authenticated with one application, okay, and another service is to be authenticated with another application. If I just have two different implementation applications, and the service package rule is I can able to have it created. So this service package rule will be identifying what is the access level. Okay, so if it is given with an administrator access here in this case, so if this package rule is connected to the service soap, so whenever service soap is getting executed, it will be having the access level identified. Based on this access group only, it can easily identify what is the application I have to access. This particular service soap has to get the information from, and what are all the rules that are to be getting. Okay, so once we identify the access group, we can able to get all the necessary rule set information, and we can able to get the necessary application details also. So in PRPC, without the page, we will not be having any rule. This is already known. So for integrations, we should be having one page for the services and for workflow, everything. For each and every rule to be executed in PRPC, there should be one page. So this statement is 100% true. And similarly, for each and every rule to be executed, there should be one thing called access group also. So without the access group identification, we cannot able to execute the rule. Okay. If I just have first name property in one access group as well as in the another access group, so two different access groups can have two different application names. Okay, so based on this access group only, rule authorization will be working, rule resolution will be working, each and every rule processing will be happening or working based on this access group only. So just to identify my service soap, to which application it has to access, so we can able to go for access group. Okay, service, I mean the service package rule main purpose is to create the WSDL file, or that is one thing, and it will be identifying the access group as well. Okay, and service package will be of two types, I mean the processing mode will be of two types, that is stateful and stateless. Okay, so this is not only in Pega, this is the common terminology in each and every technology. So what is stateless and what is stateful? So if the processing mode is given as in stateful, meaning it will be having some session ID created each and every time. It will be having some session ID created. If it is like stateless, there will not be any session ID created. So what is session ID here? Suppose if I just log in, so in this particular tab of the browser, I can able to see our Pega application. If I'm trying to open the same URL again, what I will be getting? I'll be getting the same thing, right? So based on the access group, okay, so based on this particular thing, we can able to have the same thing created. If at all, if I'm trying to open Google page now, okay, I'm searching for something like Pega activities, and if I just open another new tab and accessing something like an Pega data pages in the same Google page, in two different tabs, I'm trying to access like a Pega activity in the first one, and if I just click on new tab, and if I'm trying to click on Google again, so what I'll be getting? I'll be getting fresh Google page. I will not be getting any information related to activities, right? So meaning there is no session created in the second scenario, and the first scenario, that is like this particular Pega PRPC, or you open Gmail account in one tab, and if you try to open the same Gmail account in another tab, we'll be having the same session open there. Okay, so same session will be getting open because the processing mode for the Gmail is kept as in stateful, and for Google they will be keeping it as like in stateless. Okay, even in PRPC also, if the first request, uh, who- if I am the operator ID who is requesting for some of the PAN card details, I am creating the work object ID and I'm entering PAN card number as 123, and I will be clicking on submit button. Then one connect rule will be created and it will be interacting with the service, and I will be getting some details like ABC. Okay, and if at all, if I'm trying to have one more new rule created, sorry, one more new request created. So if I'm giving something like PAN card number as 456, if I just click on submit button, connect soap will be triggered and it will be again sending back the same response as ABC only. Why? Because it is having the same session ID created. So if the processing mode is kept as an stateful, okay, so for each and every execution, it will be having only one session created. So for that, mostly we'll be going for stateless only. If I request for PAN card number, I should be getting the results based on that. And similarly, you can able to request another PAN card number from with your operator ID. You should be getting his own corresponding details, right? So session ID should not be matched here. So that is the reason processing mode mostly will be kept like in stateless. If at all, if you're putting it for stateful, session ID will be created all the time. Okay. So here we can able to get the method name. Here in this we can able to get the model response, model request, and the URL as well. So clear, right? Any doubts as of now?
No, Chan.
Tulani. Okay. So now we'll work on one small requirement using which my application will be acting like a service provider. So let me create few service soap rules, and we have to create stream rules, parse rules, and we have to create the activities, and we have to do the necessary things. So based on the requirement, we'll try to understand what are the things to be created. So my requirement here is, so this is a service provider. Requester might be requesting something like a policy number. So whenever requester is requesting for the policy number, I have to send back the response for him with policy start date or policy amount, policy tenure, policy end date. So these kind of information, what I'm maintaining as per that policy number, has to be sent back as a response to the requester. So that is my requirement. So this is the service provider, and for this what we have to do, we have to create few properties, just like the request properties we have to create from our end in order to accept that request, and we have to create few properties for the response to send it back, and we have to create stream ruling, and we have to create parse rule, and we have to create something like a data table as well. Why? Because we have to maintain all this information somewhere, right? So uh, the policy number is 123. I have to maintain its corresponding details. So for that, let me maintain one data table as well. Okay, so this data table should be having all the data. Whenever we get the request, we have to send back the response from this table. So let us write one activity also. So we have to create one service soap rule, we have to create one service package, we have to create one XML stream rule, XML parse rule, and we have to create all the necessary classes also. Okay, but in PRPC, in order to have all this to be configured, in order to have this one service soap to be configured, we need not create all these rules. So there will be one wizard for that. If we just enter few details and click on next, the streaming rule, parse rule, activity, so these all will be automatically created. Even service package rule also will be automatically created. Okay, we can able to create it automatically, but mostly there will be cases where we have to use the existing service package rule. Okay, so let me create one new service package rule separately, and within that wizard, how can we see, how can we make use of this existing, that's what we'll see. If you want to create the new also, we can able to do that. And remember one thing, whenever we are acting like a service provider, all the necessary properties or the things will be created in the corresponding function class. Okay, so this is one of the class which will be having related to my particular claiming application. If I just have another implementation application related to something like sample, okay, we'll be creating service soap in that particular rule, in that particular class. Why? Because what are the policy details I want to share to the requester. So this will be 100% relevant to my particular class only, implementation class only. So it is nowhere relevant to my framework per class, or it is nowhere relevant to my organization class also. So this is just a blind practice. So the practice here is, if we are acting like a service provider, all the classes and the necessary rules will be created in the implementation work class and on top of that integration rules. Okay, so this is one of the class group, and on top of that we have to create one integration class, and on top of that we have to create our service. Okay, so all the service related rules we will be going for class group, and all the connector related rules they will be creating it on the organization integration class. Clear, right? So all the integration rules are to be created for sure in the integration classes only. Okay, so there will be integration classes like organization level and the implementation level as well as the framework level. If we are acting like a service provider, we have to make use of the integration class created on top of organization. And if we are acting like a connector, okay, whenever we are sending back the response to the requester should be having all these rules, integration rules created in the organization level, organization INT. Okay, so this is just in practice. So usually all the projects will be following the same. Let us also follow the same. So first let me create one data table. So with this data table I should be having few properties like policy number, which should be considered as a request, and I have to create some properties like policy start year, policy end year, policy tenure, policy amount. So these details will be creating, and we'll be having one table connected for that, and we'll be entering all the necessary information. Okay, first let me create one class for the data table. So we can able to create the class directly, or we can able to have it created from the data types also. Anything is same. Something like policy service. So as I told you, we can able to have this data class. Okay, data class only. No, we can able to have it created here. So data classes will be concrete. So data class has been created and we have to create few properties. So I'm creating something like policy number, so which is considered as a request for me. I'm doing something like company name. Okay, so I'm saving it. So I'm creating few properties. This is required for the requesting, and this is for the service providing. So let me have data table created for that. So policy number is the primary thing for me. Click on submit. So I'm entering something like policy number 001. So company name should be sample one, and policy tenure is 1, and the amount is this one. Okay. So policy number 002, sample 2. So I'm saving it. So I have created one data class and connected within data table. So now, as I told you, we have to create some necessary rules on top of integration class, right? So for that, let me create one new class for the integration on top of this. So on top of this implementation class group, we have only two classes created. Now, as I told you, we have to have one integration class created on top of this, and on top of that, we have to have we need to have the service created class. So I'm trying to create one new class. So the class name, I wanted to add it like ANT. Okay. So I want to create it in the implementation class group, and I want to go with the integration rule sets. Understanding now? So I'm creating and open. So integration class will be of abstract, and the parent for this integration class should be int dash. So you have to remember this. So as like for the work class groups, the parent class will be work dash cover dash, and for the data class it will be like data dash, right? For the integrations it should be like int dash. Save this. Okay, so I have created one integration class. So let me refresh this. So now I want to create one service related class on top of this implementation class. So let me create one service related class on top of this. Give them something like policy service details. Okay. If at all our application is providing any other services also, then it should be created something like this particular work class dash int dash, and next thing like insurance details or anything. Okay. So if this particular thing, if the claims application is providing 10 different in services, then we have to have like 10 different things created on top of int. If we just expand this, we should be having 10 different classes. So this is also I'm going for integration rule set. And remember that the policy details class, I mean the service class, may be either abstract or concrete, but integration class for sure will be abstract only. This service, I mean service related class, we can able to go for abstract or concrete. If I'm trying to go for concrete, I'll be having one advantage of having one dedicated table created for that. If at all, if you create it like an abstract and save it, even then there will not be any change in the behavior. But if you want to have one new table created after some time, maybe after a few days, it will not be possible. So for the safer side, we will be going for concrete class. Okay, why? Because it will be having one separate dedicated table connected. It should not be a class group. So this is okay. I'm saving it. So I have created one service related class. Okay, so this is the thing. So here I should be having the properties related to request as well as the service providing, right? Since we have already created one data class, but the data class here will be having request properties as well as the service properties. So let me create one page. Sorry, I have to create two different pages, one for the request and one for the response. Similarly, how are we creating one data class? And in order to use the data class properties into our work class, we are doing the same. Okay, so this will be considered as a class for the integration. That's it. And here I'm trying to create two different page properties in order to have separate for request as well as the response. So I'm trying to create one new property, I mean the page property for the data class. I'm giving something like policy request page. This is okay for me. Policy service, right? I'm saving it. So let me save as this for the request as well, for the response as well. Okay, so what we have done so far, we have created one class for the service, and on top of this we're trying to get some properties from the data class. And here we have to, after this we have to create one service soap rule, and we have to create one XML stream rule, and we have to create one parse rule, and we have to create one service package, and we have to create one activity. So these are all the things that are to be created, right? So these are all the things that are to be created for a service to be processed, for the request to be processed. We can able to create each and everything separately, or we can able to go for one wizard to create all these. Okay, so for creation of a service soap, we have one wizard called wizard in this navigation. Go to configure, go to integrations, and there will be something called services. So click here for service wizard. So within this service wizard, we can able to select any of the thing like REST protocol or anything. Okay, so this is one of the wizard where we can able to have all the rules created automatically, and we can able to have one service package also. So mostly we'll be having service package rule created separately. So let us create this service package rule separately, or we can able to make use of this also. So I'm trying to create it separately. So as I told you, service package rule is specific with the access group, right? So I'm giving something like chg admin package. So create and open. So I wanted to make it stateless and select the access group. So I'm selecting the access group. Okay, So I don't want to put any authentication for this. Just uncheck this and click on save. Okay, so one service package rule has been created. So this is the service wizard where we can able to create the service soap rule, streaming, and the package rule activities, right? So now if we just launch this, we'll be getting this one. So what is the purpose of we going for service wizard? That is what it is asking. I want to just have the data. I mean, I want to process and input and output. So we have to select this one in this case. Okay, and the protocol I want to go with SOAP only. I don't want to go for any other thing now. So I'm clicking on next. So this is the first tab. In the second tab, it will be asking us to select the data class. So don't get confused here. Data class meaning the class on which we want to create all the services. Okay, so this is the class, right? So this should be the data class in this scenario. So not the these kind of data classes. Okay, and the service name. So we have to give the meaningful service name. If we just click on next, all the rules will be created with this name. If you want to change it, we can able to change it. I'm giving something like policy process or process policy details. Okay. So I'm just giving the service name and clicking on next. So if we just expand this, we can able to see here we have to just mention what is the request name and what is the response name. So as soon as we give the data class here, we can able to see all the properties inherited from there directly. We can able to see this part is for input properties and this part is for output properties. So what should be the input property you will be getting for the service rule and what are all the output properties you want to send it here. So that is what it is asking. So the input property what I will be getting here is I will be getting only policy number, right? That is request page dot policy number. So there will be two things here. Right? Since we have created two different pages, like policy page, response page dot policy number will be there. Request page dot policy number is also there. So this should be my request number. Okay. And remember that we have to mark this checkbox. If we are not marking this checkbox, we have to create the XML stream rule and parse rule separately. If we just mark this, if we just by the wizard execution only, we can able to have stream rules created automatically in the same class. So that is the concept. So the request thing, what I'm trying to accept it, for that I have to parse it. So for that we have to create one rule. So if we just check this, that rule need not be created. And now it is asking something for output properties. So I want to have one stream rule created for that, and output properties here will be these four, all the response related pages. Okay, so now click on next. So in which rule set, you want to create all these rules. So as I told you, one service package rule has to be created. Okay, if you're selecting it, if you don't want to, if you want to make use of the existing one, you can able to go for this. And what are all the rules like XML streaming, parsing, activity, service soap rules? So these are all the things that are to be created in one class. Okay, there should be one rule set linked for that. So in which rule set you want to create it? So that is what it is asking. I know that I want to create everything in my integration rule set. So that is what I'm trying to select. And if let me check if I have only one rule set or not. Yes. So I'm selecting the latest version, and this is for the selection of service package. I don't want to create the by default we'll be having like this. I don't want to create the new service package. So my organization is already having one service package and I can able to make use of it. So that is what I'm trying to do. So use an existing service package. And here we have to select the necessary thing. So this is the package what we have created, right? So select the necessary package. It will be identifying the access group based on the particular package and what are all the rules that are being created. It will be putting it in the WSDL file location of this particular package rule. Okay, now click on next. So this is just an review. We can able to see it is creating one service soap rule. It is already having this admin package, and here it is creating one stream rule. I mean one stream rule here, one parse rule here, and it is creating one activity also. Okay, so this is the name of the activity which will be created in this class. See, this is the name of the function what we are providing there, right? So the same name activity will be created automatically. So this is for the stream rules and this is for the parse rules. Okay, so this all information PRPC will be creating automatically by this wizard. So just click on finish. So this is the WSDL file. Okay, if we just click on WSDL file, we should be getting the model request. So this is the model request. If we just send this WSDL, I mean, if we just send this model request, based on this, requester has to design their application. So model request should be one single value property. So that is what they have to understand. And model response, they will be sending within one page. So this is something like in page, within one page, they are having 4 different properties. Even there also, I mean, they also should have to configure in this way only. So they should be having one page created, and within that page, they should be having these many properties or variables. So based on the model request and model response, they have to design from their end. And they should be having something like an endpoint URL also at the last. Okay. So from here, they can able to access. So all this thing will be shared by this WSDL file only. As I told you, this WSDL file has to be shared to the requester, and based on this, they can able to consume the data. Okay, we can able to have one activity created, parse rule created, stream rule created, and one service soap rule created. So just click on done. So that is closed. So this is the service package rule what we have created earlier, right? So if we just refresh this, we should be seeing something like an WSDL file seen here. Okay, so this particular service package is linked with one service soap rule. This is the name of the method, and here within this WSDL file location we can able to have model request, model response, all these details. Okay, so the purpose of the service package is to identify the access group, as well as it will be identifying the WSDL file location. I'm saving it. So now look, refresh the App Explorer. So what are the rules we have seen, like activity, XML streaming, parsing? So those are to be reflected in the class, right? So that is the thing we are seeing here. We can able to see property pages that were created, that we have created manually. That's okay. And here within this integration mapping, we can able to see one parse rule created. Okay. We can able to see one stream rule created, and we can able to see one activity created. Okay. So these are all the things we can able to see. So this is the activity that is to be called whenever this particular service soap will be created, right? So let me open that service soap rule also. So this is the service soap rule that has been created. So as soon as WSDL file has been shared to the requester, they will be sending one request. So based on this, service soap rule will be triggered. So here it will be creating one new page. This service tab will be requested first. I mean, it will be triggered first. It will be creating one new page on the clipboard, and from there, after this, it will be going to the request tab. It will be converting all the data from XML to into its native language. Okay, so this is the file. You can able to see there also. And after this, it will be coming back to the same screen. It will be running the activity. So this is the activity. So here, what we have to do, we have to accept the request and we have to send back the response. Okay. So now let me make some modifications to this. If we go to security tab, we can able to see something like an, actually we have to mark this. In this case, it may not be required. Why? Because this is automatically created activity. No? So usually if any of the activity is being called from integrations, we have to mark this, allow direct invocation from the client. Why? Because we are not directly running it running it with our operator IDs. So this is being executed as part of the third party application. So we should be providing the access here. Okay. So within this activity, what I have to do, I have to go for page new first, just to go for obj open. So I'm creating something like temp page, and this should be having a details related to policy service, right? So I'm selecting this. So after this, I want to go for obj open. Okay. So what should be the property name here? So where policy number is equal to so primary dot request page dot policy number. Okay. So this will be the input parameter, and we'll be getting all the results onto this temp page. Once we get the details ready onto this temp page, we have to go for page copy. Okay. I can able to go for page copy, and here I can able to copy all the data from this page to this one, primary dot. So this is just for copying I'm doing. So clear, right? So I'm saving it. So did you understand what I'm trying to do? So initially I'm creating one new page with this obj open. I'm trying to get the instance related to this policy number, what we are sending, what the customer is sending on to this request, and we'll be just copying the data into our response page. Okay, so that is what I'm trying to do. So this activity will be executed after this particular tab. So first this tab will be executed. It will be having one primary page created. On this primary page, we'll be getting the request. Okay, and based on this request only, I'm trying to pull the data. So that's what I'm trying to do. So based on this clipboard request, I'm trying to pull the data. I'm saving it. Now let me run this. So I can able to run it for the testing purpose also. So I'm trying to run it. So if we run any of the soap rule, we'll be getting like this. Usually, this will not be run standalone. So this will be automatically executed whenever we are getting any request. For the testing purpose, what we can able to do is we can able to have this envelope, and we can able to see the request parameter. So the policy number is the request parameter here, right? So since for the testing purpose, we'll be having one dummy value. You can able to remove this, and we can able to enter something like PC001. So if I click on execute, we should be getting the data, if that is correct. Okay, are we getting anything? So we're not getting anything. I think it's not PC. See, now we can able to see the data, right? So for the testing purpose, if we just get any if we just have it any request included, we can able to see company name as this one, and policy number, policy amount is this one, and policy tenure. So this is the information what we have to send it directly to the requester. So this is the XML file, right? So this is the XML format. So we have to send this XML format directly to the requester. Requester will be accepting this whole data, and they will be copying this data into their clipboard first, and from there they can able to go for processing. Okay, if you are just entering any of the blank thing, obj open will be blank and will not be getting any results. So that is what we have seen in the previous case. Okay, clear, right? So once we get this, once the service soap is working fine, we can able to just share this particular WSDL file with the requester. So requester will be consuming the data, and he will be connecting with us to the service soap by creating one connect soap rule. Okay, so from the requester end, we have to create one connect soap rule, and from there he can able to access all the information using this WSDL path. Clear, right? Any doubts as of now?
Yes.
Okay, Uma, you also? So we'll work on this connect soap in the next class. We may not get enough time now. So the first thing, this execution, understanding of this particular execution is important. You have to identify the service scope will be executed. In interviews they'll ask you. So this will be first executed, then after page will be created, and after this it will be going to the request tab. Parcel will be executed and it will be putting all the data onto the clipboard, and from there it will be running the activity and it will be just doing what are the things it has to do. And then after it will be coming to the response tab, it will be putting everything in the XML and sending back it to the response, requester. Okay, clear, right?
Yeah. It's,
Sorry.